Hi, we want to invite everybody to welcome Jeanette Cereske. Jeanette, thank you for joining us today for Coaching Conversations with Breaking Forward Coaching. We really appreciate your time and the fact that you're sharing your experiences and insight with us. So, a big thank you to you. In the last several years, you and your husband have made some pretty significant changes, both in regards to your career, but also your personal life. There's been a selling of a business, retirement, relocating states. How did you come to decide upon these changes?
Well, in 2015, my husband, I'll back up a bit. My husband had his own business for 43 years. He was in commercial and residential fire and burglar alarms. And in 2015, he decided it was time to sell that business. He, as he put it, he said, I just don't have the fire in the belly anymore. And he was in his early 60s, and, retirement was looming on the horizon.
Mhm.
So he sold that business. Now he did have a couple of other business interests to keep him occupied, some, properties that he manages, and he is part owner of a business that makes marinades and barbecue sauces. So it's not like he was sitting around eating bonbons. But at any rate, so that was kind of the first big thing, is that he sold that business. I was still working full time in corporate America and continued to do so. But it was a catalyst for us to start having the conversations of, okay, retirement is ahead. Where do we want to retire? And so we considered, at the time we were living in San Francisco, and we knew that we didn't want to retire there for a multitude of reasons. And initially we thought we might relocate somewhere in California, but then the more we thought about it, the more we really decided that we wanted to move out of state. Now we wanted to stay on the West Coast, or the Western area of the United States, because that's where our families are. And my mother is still living. She's 93 and down in Southern California. So didn't want to be too far away from her either. And so we compiled a short list. And one of the cities we put on that list was Boise, Idaho. Neither of us had ever been to Boise, Idaho, but I had remembered reading an article in the ARP magazine many years earlier that said Boise was a great place to retire. So we said, hey, let's check out this Boise place. So it was Labor Day weekend, 2018. We got on a plane and came up here, and the first day here, we went downtown. They had a farmer's market, and we just said, wow, this place is amazing. It's clean, it's safe, people are friendly and genuine, and we were just loving it. So the next day, we went out and looked at houses. We weren't intending to buy anything, but we had lined up with a realtor to just see, well, what's our money going to do for us in Boise, Idaho, if we do decide to buy a home here. We looked at several houses, and there was one house in particular that we really liked, but we still said, okay, this is great. That night we went out to dinner, and there was a home invasion on our block in San Francisco that night. We lived in a 1 block street that SFPD didn't even know where it was. And all of a sudden there was a home invasion. And that, our neighbor called us to let us know what was going on. And that was pretty shocking, but it also really grabbed our attention. And so when we got back to the hotel that night, I said to my husband, let's buy that house. And it is the house that we now live in. So basically, within 48 hours of getting off the plane in Boise, Idaho, we had bought a house. So it was pretty exhilarating, kind of scary, but exciting. We went back to San Francisco, made arrangements to sell the home we were living in, made arrangements to sell the building that my husband had run his business out of. I went ahead and gave my notice at my job, and we started packing and sorting and purging and all the things that you do. We had been in our home 14 years. He had been in his building for 40. So there was a lot to do to get ready to go. And so that was really how the move to Boise took place.
So the conversations about retirement had started and you had been
Yes.
exploring, but it sounds like the actual decision making was rapid.
Impulsive. It was impulsive. Yeah. But it just felt right. We didn't even, we had a few other cities on our list that we were going to visit. We didn't even bother. We just trusted our gut, so to speak. Boise felt right. Boise felt like home. Boise felt like a place that we fit, that we could be happy. And as my husband likes to say, we had found this home that was fabulous, and we grabbed the brass ring and we got it.
It sounds like it worked out well for you.
It has. It's worked out fantastically. We love living here. We love our neighborhood. We love our neighbors. So to kind of move forward with that, when we decided to move initially, I had hoped that I could work remote. And funny that my business, the place I worked, that was electronic signatures, the whole idea being you can sign from anywhere in the world, wouldn't let me work remote.
Oh.
And there was a lot at play there. There was politics and different things going on around that.
Mhm.
So I said, well, okay, I'm not staying here, so we will part ways. And so that's how I ended up quitting my job.
So
And
you had been open to not retiring for a
yes,
while.
yes, because I was not retirement age yet. I was in my early 60s, but I could have worked a few more years.
Mhm.
And I had that intention, but they didn't want to allow me to do that, which was ironic because of course 2 years later everybody was working remote because it was the
Yeah.
pandemic.
Yeah.
So at any rate, it actually turned out to be the best thing that could have happened. When we moved here, I told my husband, I said, I'm going to take a little time off and then I'm going to find a fun job. So essentially, I did consider myself retired,
Mhm.
but I still felt young enough and energetic enough to do something. And so I said, I'm going to find something fun to do. So I applied for a few different jobs. I've always been an avid reader. I applied to some of the libraries. And I got the idea that maybe I would like to work as a receptionist at a veterinary office. It is no secret that I am very, very fanatical about cats. I love cats, love my cats, love everybody's cats. And I found this job opportunity to be a receptionist at an all feline veterinary clinic. And I thought, wow, that sounds like something I would really enjoy. So after the first of the year, we had moved here in November. And after the first of the year, actually just almost 5 years ago to the day, I started working at an all feline veterinary clinic as the receptionist. And I truly found my calling in that job. So the employer that wouldn't let me continue to work full time in my chosen field remotely did me a huge favor because I found something that I am truly passionate about. I get to help people, I get to help their kitties, I get to educate, I get to be there for people when they need it most. And I've saved more than one cat's life by taking a phone call and saying, you need to get to the emergencies hospital right now. I truly feel that I've made a difference in a big way. And it's just something that I am grateful to do every day.
It's I love that you mentioned that you're a teacher in this role because that's kind of what you were doing in your previous career.
Mhm.
You
You're
were
absolutely
you were
right.
a trainer.
Yeah, exactly. And I still am.
You are. For the viewers, Jeanette has worked for various corporations over the course of her career, creating trainings and educational programs. How many years?
Well over 30.
Well over 30 years.
Yeah.
So,
I started doing that in 1982
mhm.
and I retired from it in 2018. So what's that? Maybe 36 years? Something like that. Yeah, long time. Along the way, worked in a lot of different industries, worked in financial, worked in tech, worked in retail, again, all in the training field. Did have my own consulting firm for a while and did courses for the American Management Association. So I had a very, very broad experience in that field, creating training programs, delivering training programs, online training, you name it. In that space, I pretty much did it.
And here you are still providing the knowledge and the care
Yeah.
to
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm teaching people different things now. I'm teaching people that cats don't like closed litter boxes and they don't like scented litter. And, little tips and things that I can pass along uh, from my experience, because I have had a lot of experience with cats. I've had cats with a lot of different illnesses and conditions. So a lot of practical knowledge, some of which I have learned on the job, but I've been able to bring my own experience as a, cat owner for over 20 years to this job as well.
Well, and I wanted to then use this as an opportunity to share with the viewer that you and your co-founder, Kate Caravella, had started a charity called the Murphy and Sugar Angel Foundation. That just recently, after 10 years, you guys had decided that you would close. But that also, I wanted you to please tell the viewers about your other not-for-profit for the mammillary cancer.
Yeah. So actually, that is how through that organization, that's actually how Kate and I met.
Okay.
So I had a cat named Sugar who was diagnosed with mammary cancer. And mammary cancer in cats, for those of you that don't know, is terrible. It's a terrible prognosis. It's horribly aggressive. There's very limited treatment options. It's pretty much a death sentence for your cat. So Sugar was diagnosed with that in 2013, and I had known one other person that had had a cat with mammary cancer. And then it happened. And ironically enough, I had for a couple of years been doing breast cancer walks. I was doing the Susan G. Komen, and I was motivated to do that because a friend of mine was diagnosed with breast cancer at 38. I also had this friend that had the cat with mammary cancer. So I decided to marry the two. And when I did my breast cancer walks, I was not only walking to end breast cancer for everyone, but also to raise awareness that animals, pets, dogs, cats, rats, rabbits, rats, ferrets get breast cancer too. And then the irony was that here I was, raising awareness about feline mammary cancer, and my cat gets feline mammary cancer. So then that mission became even more personal for me. And so as I learned more about feline mammary cancer, and again, how many people didn't know that their cats could get it, how limited the treatment options were, I thought I need to do something about this. Well, I looked in the mirror and said, somebody needs to do something about this. How about me? So I started something called Sugar Rub. And the idea of the Sugar Rub is that once a month, just as you do your own breast exam, you should do a breast examination on your pets. And so that's the Sugar Rub, because my kitty's name was Sugar. And so time went on, and I wanted to do more than that. And so through Sugar's oncologist, I was put in touch with someone at the University of Pennsylvania, Penn Vet, their vet school, because I wanted to fund some research because the treatment options were so limited. So I started working with Penn Vet, and we started a nonprofit fund, and I sold t-shirts and wristbands, and we did online auctions. And long story short, we raised $50,000 over a period of time for feline mammary cancer research. The research is still ongoing. It's been 10 years. I wish it was cured. It's not, but the foundation has been laid, and hopefully at some point in time, we're going to have a cure. So the offshoot of that is that I had also started a support group on Facebook for people who had pets with cancer. Because a lot of times when your pet is diagnosed with cancer, a lot of people don't understand why you're so invested in it. It's just a dog, it's just a cat. Why would you spend all this money on, an animal with cancer? Well, they're not just animals with cancer, they're our family. And it's very helpful to be around other people that understand that. And so I started a Facebook group for that purpose, and it was called Support Group for Parents of Pets with Cancer. And Kate joined that group because of Murphy, because Murphy had cancer. Sorry, it's near and dear to my heart. So Kate and I met in that group, and sadly, neither Murphy nor Sugar survived their cancers, but it did bring Kate and I together. And one of the things that struck Kate and I both is, the enormous expense of having a pet with cancer or any other critical illness. Specialty vet care is expensive. And I never knew that until I had a cat with breast cancer. And we went the whole 9 yards with Sugar, mastectomy, lumpectomy, chemo, and it was not inexpensive. Now, one thing we did do was get pet insurance. And we have that. We even had it on Sugar, even though we knew the breast cancer wouldn't be covered. But she had other things that happened along the way that were covered. And all of my other cats have pet insurance. And do to this day, it's the first thing I do when I get a new cat, they get the pet insurance. And that has saved me tens of thousands of dollars. But a lot of people don't have pet insurance. They don't even know about it. And here they are, all of a sudden they have this, crisis and they need help. And so that was how the Murphy and Sugar Angel Foundation started, was how can we help people that don't have the resources we have to treat their pet that has a very serious, life-threatening, critical illness.
I know that you guys helped a lot of families over the years.
Yes, it's very interesting. The decision to close down the foundation for both of us was not an easy one. It was a difficult decision. However, we were both in the same place with it. We did it for 10 years. And the last couple of years, the need has just, I can't even say quadrupled. It has been incredible how many more applications we've been getting. And fundraising is always a challenge. The competition for nonprofit funds is huge, harder and harder. So between the fundraising and also, just the running of a foundation, sending out the applications, getting the applications in, reviewing the applications, answering the questions, making the payment to the veterinary clinic. I mean, it became overwhelming for both of us. And kind of going back to what I said about Bill with his alarm company, we just didn't have the fire in the belly for it anymore. And, things had changed in our lives. Kate is now living in 2 places. So her life has gotten a little more complicated. She's gotten involved in another business venture. So her situation has changed. Me personally, my husband was diagnosed with prostate and lung cancer in late 2021. And so that another big life change. So, it was just, we both agreed, which I'm so grateful for. I'm so grateful we both felt the same way, that as heartbreaking as it was time. We have definitely done our part. And we're seeing, all these comments on the Facebook page now from people that we've helped and people that have supported us. And it's hard seeing those comments. But again, in our heart of hearts, Kate and I both know that this was the right decision.
So we really have talked about a lot of transitions, the career transition, the state transition, the foundation transition, even touching upon health transitions. What has helped you with your decision-making process as you've had to make the decisions, whether methodically or spontaneously? Have there been people you've reached out to? Have there been sources of information you relied on? Anyone that you tapped into specifically as you were trying to think out loud about what next?
Yes, absolutely. So I am really fortunate in that I have some really amazing friends. I have lifelong friends. Last week, my 3 best friends from high school were here for a visit. We have been friends for over 50 years, and we get together at least once a year. So folks like that I can bounce ideas off of. I have a lot of online friends. Facebook, for all of its warts, has connected me to a lot of people. I used to be on a site called Catster, which was before Facebook. and it was kind of Facebook for cats. When that site was no longer functioning, we transitioned over to Facebook. So a lot of my online friends on Facebook were from those Catster days. And so, of course, our main connection is our cats. But they've become really, really good lifelong friends. Many of them I have met in person. In fact, I'm still doing breast cancer walks. I'm still raising awareness that pets get breast cancer too. And the women I walk with are women that I met on Catster. And we come from all over the country once a year to do a breast cancer walk together. The name of our team is Sugars Trekkers for Tatas. So we're very, we're very connected, and we all walk for different reasons, but we have the same purpose, and that is, educating and ending breast cancer for everyone. But I did digress a bit there. But they are a strong group for me. We have those ladies. I have 4 friends that we have a running conversation, a running chat on Facebook that we check into and chat on every day. It's like having a phone call with them every day. It's wonderful. So I am very blessed and grateful to have the friends that I have that I can talk to about things like this. And I have 2 sisters as well that I can speak with. So I have a really amazing support group around me that are with me through good times and bad times.
Not everyone can say that, so I'm really glad for you that you can. That's wonderful.
I'm really about connecting. My connections are very, very important to me, and I make a point of taking care of them. And when you get busy at certain different times in your life and you have a lot going on, it's easy to let those connections go because they take time and nurturing. They're, like a garden, right? But yet they are one of the most precious things you can have in your life.
And as you didn't directly say this, but it's those connections that can make these transitions easier for us as we go through them.
Absolutely. And when my husband was diagnosed with cancer, Kate was an incredible support for me. Yeah, she was fantastic. So, and he had some other health issues, and she was really there for me, and as a friend, but also in her chosen career. She knew how to help me through that whole process, which was, of course, very challenging.
I think anyone who knows Kate will not be surprised at all by what you just shared.
Yeah, I mean, and she's like, "Oh, don't worry, we got this."
I'm curious, with all of your different changes in the different parts of your life, was there any unanticipated challenges that surprised you?
So when my husband was diagnosed with cancer and started his treatment, I had never been close to anyone that had gone through anything like that. So he started out by having a lower left lobectomy. He had his lower left lung lobe removed from his lung. And then shortly thereafter, he started chemo. And I'd never really been through that with anyone. So I was afraid. It's scary. Chemo is a scary word for all of us. Cancer is a very scary word for all of us. And so I didn't know what to expect. And we had like this little magnet on our refrigerator. And it said, if you have any of these symptoms, call. Here's the number. And he started having some of those symptoms. And so I called. But it was just, navigating that was scarier than I imagined. And continuing to navigate that, he had, repeated problems. His sodium was low, and they kept telling us to go to McDonald's and eat more French fries. And, and so those things that happened along the way in with his health were scary, and yeah, particularly challenging. But again, and this only reinforced our choice in moving here, is we've had fantastic medical care here. We are so grateful. His lobectomy was state of the art. They used the robot, the Da Vinci machine. I mean, the cancer center here, his oncologist, everyone has just been such a blessing. So we always felt that we were in the best hands, but it was scary.
How much more so if you felt like you didn't have those resources available to you?
Yes. And the kind of interesting part was we don't have any family here, but yet we have the most incredible neighbors that have become family. And so even through all of his, his surgery, his chemo, his immunotherapy, and then later the radiation for the prostate cancer, I was still able to work. I went off to work 3 days a week and I wasn't worried because I knew I had fantastic neighbors right next door that would do anything needed. I mean, of course, my employer was like, whatever you need, you guys, you just let us know. But I was really grateful to do that because it was the normal part of my life, right? Going to work and every day, that was routine, that was normal. And you could say it was a bit of an escape from this really scary thing called cancer and chemo and immunotherapy and radiation. So I'm grateful, really grateful to have had that. It kept some balance in my life.
Yeah, it's so important to be able to have some sense of normalcy
Exactly.
in the midst of the chaos. So I'm
Yes.
really glad you had that.
Very, very well put.
I'm so appreciative for you giving us your time today. I know that Kate has shared with you that with the Breaking Forward coaching, the new endeavor, that we have a transition track for those who have had similar life experiences. They're moving into the next phase. You moved into all the phases all at once, it seems. But there to provide support, especially maybe for people who don't have the incredible network that you've developed over the course of your lifetime.
Well, I think too, I'll go back to another huge transition in my life that really, I think, prepared me for everything going forward. But a little over 20 years, I got a divorce. And anybody that's been through a divorce knows it's one of the most horrible things you ever go through in your life. And mine was no exception. It was painful. It was difficult. It was a catalyst to really figure things out. I went into therapy. I explored things that I never thought I would explore. And it was all worth it. I felt like I walked through the fire and came out on the other side forged steel. And once I had had that experience, I had the confidence that whatever was going to come next, I could handle. It was just an incredible experience. It transformed me. It was transformational. And one thing that somebody said to me while I was going through my divorce is something that I say to people pretty often. And I say, change is difficult, but new adventures await. And I am a firm believer that anything difficult, challenging, hard prepares you for what's next. And it has certainly been the case for me.
Well, thank you for the shout out for the importance of self-care.
Absolutely. The time and money I spent on therapy was the best investment in myself I've made in my entire life. I would encourage it for anyone, even people that have had storybook childhoods. I think anyone can benefit from therapy because life is challenging. And the better we know ourselves and the more tools we have, and that's what therapy really gave me, is my therapist taught me to be my own therapist. And, I understand that the issues that we have, they don't go away. We just learn to manage them. We learn to recognize them. We learn to manage them and not let them manage us. So I would tell anybody contemplating any kind of coaching, therapy, whatever you want to call it, it will truly be an investment that will pay off for the rest of your life.
Agreed. As my first career was also in the mental health field, I see a lot of similarities between therapy and coaching, and it's just all about, just like you have done most of your life, teaching, sharing, spreading the knowledge, and it just brings an improvement in people's lives. So
I
thank
heard something one time at a workshop, and this is another thing that has never ever left me. And I went to this workshop. It was work. It was a professional workshop through work. But um, after we came back from lunch, the instructor said, he asked the whole class, about 100 people, a question. He said, "Is knowledge power?" And of course, pretty much everybody raised their hand or nodded their heads. Oh, yeah, knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. And one person said no. And so he looked at that person. He said, "Why not?" He said, "Knowledge is only powerful if you use it." And that, whoa. I mean, talk about the saying, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. That was the message I needed to learn at that was a message I needed to hear at that very point in time, because I was going through my divorce. I was learning all these different things about myself. I wasn't using them. And that was life changing, absolutely life changing.
that was probably the highest note we can end on. If everyone listened and understood that last bit of wisdom that you dropped on them.
Yeah.
But Jeanette Cereske, thank you so much for joining us. And I hope that the next year brings a lot of health and happiness for you and your family. And for Boise, Idaho, that definitely got a big shout out from you today.
Well, it is an exciting year for us. We are going to be grandparents for the first time. So there's another big transition coming.
Congratulations on that as
A
well.
very exciting one. And yeah, very well. Thank you so much. I've really appreciated this time together.
You're welcome.